figure it out over time, but that's why the drip matrix is such an important map for you to understand where are you spending your time. And if you're not moving your way through it, then you'll always feel stuck. But to start buying back your time, you need to understand how much it's worth. And that's why I created the buyback rate formula. So for example, if your current income in your business is $200,000 a year, you divide that by 2,000, then take that number by 4, that equals $25 per hour. Anytime you spend money to buy back your time, you want to get a 4 times ROI on that money. So if you can spend $25 an hour paying anybody to take anything off of your plate, that'll give you the best return on your time. If you don't.
Okay, so as an accountant, I just had to follow it. 2,000 hours. He's likely using because that's about how many hours people work. I know salaries, for example, for big companies are based on 2,800 hours in the year, but you don't work every year or every week. You have vacation time. You're not always super efficient on the days that you are working. So 2,000, get it, love it, simple number. The times 4, so that the 2,000 tells you what your paid rate is. Timesing it by 4 tells you what your buyback rate is. Meaning, as his example pointed out, if you're making $200,000, you are only making a certain amount, but you're willing to pay $25 an hour to replace your time. Okay, so I just wanted to go through that as an accountant. Didn't quite understand what the 4 was until he said 4 times ROI, which I agree with. If you can do 4x on your pay stuff, your business is in a good state of mind. 2 times you can survive. Less than 2 times ROI on your costs, your labor costs, not going to stay in business very long.
If you don't fight for the value of your time, nobody else will value your time. So you need to understand what it's worth. If I don't know that my time is worth $100 and I keep saying yes to doing things that are $10 tasks, then I'm never going to be able to grow my business. What most people don't realize, the cheapest way to buy back your time is to stop doing things that suck your time. Which brings us to chapter 3, the 5 time assassins. Most people waste their time by just delaying decisions. It's like getting an email for an opportunity and instead of just replying to it right away, and they just mark it as unread or start, and eventually they'll reply on some Saturday morning when they're feeling good about themselves and say, oh, let's talk about it. And that opportunity is gone. I see people sabotage their success all the time like this. And that's why I've distilled it into these 5 time assassins. The first one is the staller, just like I just described. That's somebody that can't make a decision. Any decision is better than no decision because no decision is still a decision to just stall and not.
And honestly, that isn't your fault per se. You've just got to a point of burnout. I know in the moments where I'm stalling decisions, it's because I am just tired. And I know that making a decision leads to more actions that I need to get done. And I'm already feeling like I don't have enough time to get the current actions done. So I understand that the stall thing, it is a time waster. Creating systems, hiring people, buying back your time, those are all elements that are going to help you reduce this. The 3.3 rule, which obviously I'm a big fan of since I created it. Those are all things that are going to help you reduce that feeling of burnout so that you can reduce the temptation to be a staller.
Because no decision is still a decision to just stall and not feel like you're making progress. The second is the speed demon. And this is somebody who thinks under the guise of I'm productive and I'm moving forward and I'm making decisions fast. They don't stop to reflect. They take the easiest path. For example.
Yeah, busy doesn't equal productive. Yep, I've had team members who go too fast and they always look at me weird when I'm like, I'm giving you permission to slow down because you really can make better decisions when you're thinking slower, not going too faster than you can run.
For example, they hire their cousin because he can fog a mirror, not because he's the best hire, but because he's the easiest hire. The third is the supervisor.
We definitely see the speed demon when it comes to hiring because most of the time businesses wait too long and they're already in a state of desperation. Therefore, they don't want to give themselves the sufficient amount of time to adequately evaluate the candidate. And that then leads to PTSD of like, oh my gosh, these team members stink. I'm just going to go back to being myself because it's too hard. When in reality, if you just fix your hiring practices and then subsequently your training of onboarding team members, all of the things part of the 3.3 system that we consult with, that helps you minimize this chance of being a speed demon and rushing your hiring decisions. But it shows up in other ways too. If I'm skimming an email, it's like, man, you missed 4 points of the email, only responded to one. Now there's rework on everybody's part to go back and be like, yeah, but what about these other elements? So sometimes it does help to slow down. My mother-in-law, I taught my wife, haste makes waste. There's some truth to that.
The third is the supervisor. This is the person that micromanages everything. They look at everything and they scrutinize it and they criticize it, and nothing can ever be done as good as them. So they're always there trying to be involved, which is weird because they hire people and then do their job for them.
Yeah, he's not wrong. It's a funny title, the supervisor. We absorbed an accounting firm that had this dilemma where they had one guy who just required literally all accounting decisions to go through him. And so what happened is an entire company of accountants, and we're talking like 40 plus team members, 10,000 plus clients. All of them were trained to not make decisions because the one guy had such low self-esteem and needed to feel like he was needed that everything had to go through him. Not healthy. Frankly, if you fall into that situation, if you're like, oh, maybe I do micromanage too much, I strongly recommend working with a business psychologist. I had a little bit of this issue, a little bit of not wanting to give up control, and working with a psychologist to help me even know that that was what was going on actually helped a lot. If you think you can do it on your own, awesome. I wasn't able to identify it on my own and then figure out how to get around it. But this is an issue. Micromanaging is a problem. It's not a healthy way to run your business.
The fourth is the saver. This is somebody who penny pinches every penny. They never invest in themselves. They never invest in getting more time back. They don't invest in their business. They think if I spend $1, it's $1 I didn't make. So every time I save money, essentially it's money I made. That sounds like a winning proposition, but it also means you can't grow. The fifth.
So the saver in the sense of a time assassin, I understand the saver of like, I'm not willing to invest in this because I don't believe in the ROI. And I've learned that, I hate the phrase, it takes money to make money. Absolutely not true. You can go out today and no money and go provide a service to somebody and he'll pay you. It didn't take any of your money to make that money. So I don't buy that. But I 100% agree that there are good investments. And when you do that, you get a great ROI. I don't believe just straight up, I'm spending money. I'm just going to spend money because I know it's going to come back to me. You can definitely make bad business decisions and hire the wrong marketing company, for example. Guys promise the moon and then they don't deliver on anything, but they're good at marketing to you. They're just not good at marketing to your clients to get you services. I guess I am personally not smart enough to connect how the saver is a time assassin. So as I'm saying that, I'm just trying to verbally process here for you. I guess I've seen it show up. There are times I feel overwhelmed and all I needed to do, which solves it, is I take 30 minutes to write my thoughts down, to organize my tasks, to figure out what are the things I need to do today, what are the things I need to do next week, what are my overall big arching to-do things. And that 30 minutes of time not doing the actual work gave me the clarity I need to then move forward and take action instead of kind of sitting back and like not investing the time into organizing that. And now all of a sudden I have so much to do. In the words of Jim Gaffigan, I just want to take a nap.
Fifth is the self-medicator. And this is the person that self-sabotages their growth by using food, alcohol, drugs, video games, whatever addiction they've got to self-medicate their feelings instead of confronting them head on, which causes them to always hit a ceiling of complexity instead of breaking through to become more for their team. The reason why you need to understand these is because without spending a penny, you can get back tens of hours a week.
So the self-medicator is a time assassin. I'm guessing that's just showing up in the form of you're wasting time self-medicating to get through the day, when if you use that time to just be productive, you'd obviously get more done. I totally agree with him. You can get back tens of hours a week. It's in there. For me, the simplicity, adding the 3.3 rule into your day, being the most productive workday consists of working up to 3 hours, followed by a 30% recovery period. If you work in that type of cycle of focus blocks, intentional breaks where I don't work during your work hours, that alone is going to make you more productive. And even though you're investing time into intentional breaks, you are going to get tens of hours back. And then if you add on top of that his principles here that he's already talked about, you are going to find even more hours because you're delegating stuff, you're stop doing stuff, you're deleting the tasks, or you're hiring people to then do the tasks, which then frees up your time to do, again, higher level things.
Now the question is, where do you invest it? Which brings us to chapter 4, the only 3 trades that matter. Most people think once I get there, then I'll have time to do the thing. Cleaning of the garbage or processing my inbox or managing my calendar, all these things that don't generate a lot of income, they're just busy work. And what you need to do is think about spending more time in the production quadrant today. There's really only 3 trade levels when it comes to time. Level 1 is an employee. You're trading your time for money. People pay you for your expertise, which is always tied to your time. It's not tied to an outcome. Level 2 is
Yeah, so if you do that, if your business is a time for money, you really just own a job. You don't own a business yet. And again, it takes money to make money. Not true, right? You can give your time for no money and then get compensated in return for providing a service. But your employees do live in quadrant 1. So it's not like it's a terrible situation. It's just if you want to grow a business, you can't be that person. You cannot live in box 1 if you want a successful business.
2 is entrepreneur, which is where you trade your money for time, because all of a sudden now you get paid for a result. So if you can get more results for people, then you take the money they pay you to then invest in you and your capacity so that you essentially buy back your time with the money you have. But level 3 is empire builder. And this is when you start.
Okay. Yeah. Money for time. That to me also shows up, as I talked about. You can reach a stage of entrepreneurship where you can use your money to free up additional tasks for you just for the sake of leveraging your time. And now with that freed up time, you can choose to do things with your family that maybe you're not getting to right now. And for me, that's my passion. I want people who want to spend more time with their family, business owners who want to spend more time with their family. Those are the ones that I'm trying to help and serve.
Figuring out how to trade your money for money. And we'll talk about this later, but that is a big idea to really create the empire. Most people, they start off in level 1 and they take that mentality to level.
From a marketing standpoint, and we're going to talk about that later, he said that a couple times now. Definitely a way to keep someone interested in watching a 30-minute video. This is one of the reasons why Dan Martell is everywhere. He's a great marketer. He's out there. And he keeps you interested because, as you can see so far, his stuff is good.
Too. So even though they're an entrepreneur, they're still acting like an employee when it comes to the value of their time. And then people that are in 2 will stay in 2 because they don't understand that there's a completely different paradigm shift to build their empire where they have their money work for them. So they're not always having to work to generate money. But how do you decide what tasks to spend your money on? That's why I created the time and energy audit. It's very simple, but massively impactful. First thing is you want to write down every task.
So going back to the money for money thing, I also am not quite smart enough to catch exactly what he's talking about from what he just said. But if I had to think about it, the things that come to mind is I can hire someone, which costs me money. And if that person does a good job for me, they're ideally giving me a 4x return on their efforts. So I might pay him $100,000, but in his efforts, the company made an additional $400,000. So that's my money spent for more money. So Dan Sullivan, for example, one of his books that I think he wrote with Ben Hardy was Who, Not How. Like sometimes there's scenarios like, I don't know how to do that. So I'm just going to pay someone who knows how to do that. And that's another money for money investment type of situation
that we're currently doing. I like to tell people to have an alarm go off every 15 minutes to log it because most people don't realize how much time they've been spending on social media or taking these got a second meetings from their team that turns into got an hour. So we always want to write it down to do a true.
Yeah. And when you're doing the task, or like when you're doing this activity of tracking your time, I would just add this in to that. This is the element stage, but tracking every 15 minutes, setting your clock, not a bad strategy. You're not going to have the most productive days because you're going to be interrupted when you're in a flow state. during those 2 weeks or however long you decide to do it. But you definitely are going to get a clear picture of all the different activities that you're doing.
Audit of where we're spending our time. And then what you do is once you've got this detailed list, go through each one and give a dollar sign of value of what it would cost to pay somebody else.
Oh, that's so true. Hey, do you got a second? And 50 minutes later, it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm not getting to that task that I did because now I have appointments the rest of the day. Protect your time.
To do it. $1 is like an administrative task and $4 is like hiring somebody to do your job. And you write that next to each one. Then you want to highlight in red anything that sucks your energy that you hate doing, or green things that give you energy. Once you've done.
So that works for me. I like that. I would add another column of like, what is your passion about it? Does it suck your energy or do you enjoy it? That could be as simple as a smiley face, a neutral face, or a frown. But I would evaluate it not just on a standpoint of like the dollar value, but also your energy value.
You now have a bucket of things that cost very little that are red in nature, and that is the only next hire you should make. You shouldn't bring anybody else on your team until you grab all those red.
That's an art class thing. I didn't do the art class thing. I did the columns. Either way works.
Low cost things and give it to somebody else so you can free up your time. Now that you know what to take off your plate, how do you sequence it? Which brings us to chapter 5, the replacement ladder. Most people mess this up. They feel overwhelmed. They read a book and it tells.
Yeah, and from a standpoint of filtering what tasks should you give up, that's great advice. Take the tasks that suck your energy the most. Yeah, super smart, common sense.
Them you need to hire somebody that can help with operations. You're the visionary and have somebody else come in and run your company for you. The problem with that is that you have no skill set for delegating yet. You've never done it before. You're going to pay somebody 6 figures plus to essentially have a non-revenue generating role on your team. And it's going to.
Well, before he tells us what his thought is the problem is that you may not be the visionary, and that's totally okay. I am less of a visionary and more of an operator, but I do have a vision and I have a passion, and are certain things that I see. I always go back to the story of Walt Disney. That guy was so unsuccessful so he's a visionary. He was so unsuccessful until he brought his brother Roy on, who was more of the operation guy. Once those two paired up, man, obviously you see what has happened with Disney nowadays. And I'm not going to get into the political stuff, whether you're into Disney now or not. But from a standpoint of business success, you can't argue with that. And Walt, on his own, not successful. It's okay if you're the operator. It's okay. I don't think he's necessarily, Dan here, saying everyone who reads a book is only the visionary, or that every business owner is only the visionary. But I just wanted to make sure that I made that clear. It's okay if you're not the visionary. You could be considered the operator. And based on which lens you're coming from is going to help you determine who, like the type of who, needs to be part of the replacement of things or added. Like in our case, our business grew to the point where we just had brand new positions. It wasn't a matter of taking tasks off of anyone's plate. It was actually a matter of, we have new tasks that we think need to get done, which will help grow the business. Who can we hire to do that? And so in my case, I added some more visionary-like people into the leadership team.
Stress you out, and in 6 months, you're probably going to fire them, or they're going to quit because they're annoyed working with you because there wasn't enough business for them to stay busy in the first place. So most people don't realize that the sequence that you hire equals success or failure. That's why I've outlined the first principle of this whole methodology called the buyback principle, which states you don't hire to grow your business.
That is a likely chain of events, not the only possible chain of events when it comes to hiring the wrong person, but certainly that is one way that it can go down.
Hire to buy back your time. It's a capacity over calendar problem. If you do the first, then you'll just add a bunch of overhead that you need to manage. But if you
I see what he's saying there. Like, when we were a $300,000 company or $500,000 company, if I immediately went to, okay, I'm going to create my leadership team, the company doesn't have the infrastructure, nor do they have the profitability and cash flow in order to hire that layer. And so you need to be strategic about which positions you add so that the company can handle it the right way, which I'm guessing is what he's referring to in the sequence of your hires, or did he say sequence of replacements? But there's a sequence for sure. Again, we were around the $2 million mark before I started considering adding leadership team members, because they were going to be non-revenue generated positions. But with their leadership, I now had more brain power off of my plate, and now multiple people looking at the more intense tasks and challenges within each department.